welcome back to That Just Doesn't Make Sense, the Nature of Things. Before we go further, I need you to understand who you are, or who we are. If we are going to challenge narratives, we first have to look at how narratives take root. Before I ask you to question the world around you, I want to take us back to where questioning begins. So I would like to go to that actual beginning, not just mine, but the beginning we all share. The moment a human being first starts trying to make sense of the world. Human beings are part of the animal kingdom, which then means that human beings have animal instincts as well. That is important to consider when trying to understand why we act the way we do in some situations. Like when we are afraid and sometimes see red with uncontrollable anger. Where does that emotion come from? Why do you get even more angry because you hate how your temper is taking over? That blind anger can be life-changing in a big way. I'm not here to tell you that it's not you per se. It's an animal instinct that we all have to deal with. And the key verbiage in that last statement is we all have to deal with it. Why is that important to understand? And more importantly, accept. The human animal is in all of us since the beginning of time. And long before people like Sigmund Freud ever came along, we dealt with it, and not with mind-altering drugs. Every emotion, every feeling is all part of being human. All humans, every race, ideology, political side. It does not matter. We have to deal with it. That does not mean we're not responsible for what we do. It means we need to understand what is happening inside of us and accept it before we can control it. Human beings like to believe we are guided by reason, which is the way it should be. But much of the time we react first and explain later. Fear, anger, pride, loyalty, and belonging can take over before logic ever has a chance to speak. That does not make us bad, it makes us human. But if we do not understand that part of ourselves, others will, and they will use it against us, as we will discover in future episodes. One way to help us understand our animal nature is to watch some documentaries of animals, such as lions, monkeys, and especially elephants. But pick any animal group you want and watch how they handle situations, like disciplining their young, for example. Animals do not spare the rod. They do something about transgression in real time, right then and there. How do animals handle fear, the loss of their children, and other members of their group? Then compare what you learn from the animals you see and see if you can identify that trait inside yourself or other humans. So now that you understand how this works inside you, let me show you what that looks like in real life. Let me share a real life experience I have to illustrate animal instinct in action. I was 27 years old. It was 1987. My wife and I were living in Arlington, Texas, which, by the way, was my favorite place that I've ever lived. Back then, there was a massive savings and loan catastrophe happening in the United States that impacted construction horribly. I'm facing no work, animal instinct, fear. And when speaking with my father-in-law, he said to me that I could come to California and work for him at the furniture factory. So that's what I did. I started out as an inventory clerk, and my direct supervisor was a purchasing manager. His name was John. He was an alcoholic. But because of my background of construction, the company ended up assigning other projects in the factory for me to build. For example, before I arrived, they did not have a good inventory control system. I built separate, secured rooms, and because of this, their inventory was under control. They stopped bleeding money on inventory, and they started seeing more money come into the bottom line. Then I was assigned to work directly for the vice president of operations. Marvin was his name. Animal instinct. He was the alpha. He was very organized and had high ideals type of a person, and angry all the time. I liked what I learned from him, but I did not like him at all. I would work on whatever Marvin assigned to me. And at night, when everybody left, I would stay there and I would teach myself how to use the factory equipment and machines so that I would know how. Animal instinct of adaptiveness to my surroundings. As time went on, I was given more and more responsibility, and Marvin started being less and less involved. It got to the point where he hardly came out of his office. This led to me having to start taking ownership of the production floor, even though I did not get paid to do that. And then we had a client one day that said they had to have their product by the following Monday. It was a huge order, and it was 2 weeks of work, and we only had 4 days to do it. I kept asking for guidance, but none came from anyone. So I took it upon myself to ensure that we met that goal. I accepted the date no matter what. That's huge. Acceptance. I turned 4 days into 12 days by working 24 hours a day. We got done with the project by Sunday night around 10 p.m. I had been at the factory the entire time to ensure we would make it. Later that night, I got a phone call from the president of the company screaming at me about the cost to accomplish that goal. I went into a rage, animal instinct, fight or flight. Back then, I could not control my temper like I can today. But I let him finish his rant and said, "Am I the VP of operations for this company?" Animal instinct trapped in a corner. He said, "No." "Then why are you screaming at me? You knew how important this milestone was because you approved it." What he did not know is Marvin was not handling it, I was. That, however, is not between you and me. That is between the vice president and the president. He said, all right, we'll talk about this tomorrow. Now, normally he arrives 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. He didn't arrive until around 10 a.m. He asked me into his office and asked me to close the door. I was about to tell him I quit, but he interrupted me and said, "I just fired Marvin." I could not believe it. A huge smile grew across my face. He said, I would not be smiling yet if I were you. So I stopped and he said, "You are now the new general manager of this factory." And by the way, I did get a raise for that. So why did I tell you this story? Because it was simple. It spoke to my own real life experience and where the animal instincts take over and how they applied in real life. So before the next episode, try writing in the comments a real life story of your own and see if you can point out the animal instincts as it happened to you. And I would love to be able to share it with the listeners in future episodes. Now, before you go, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you don't ever miss an episode. And we'll see you on the next one.